A tear fell from the phoenix and burned the man's shoe, but he was not angry. Instead, he felt pity seeing the phoenix in such misery, so he immediately untied the ropes and set the phoenix free, grateful for being saved. The phoenix gave the man one of its feathers before leaving. However, the king ordered the man's arrest for failing to capture the phoenix. The man tried to use the feather as proof, but to his surprise, it was dull and lifeless, and no one believed him. The king then sentenced him to death. At the very last moment, the feather suddenly burst into flames, and the phoenix descended from the sky, its fire illuminating the whole town. The truth finally came out, and the people demanded the man's release. The king's plot to get rid of him failed, but the king refused to give up and ordered the man to hunt a giant whale. The man at once mounted a flying donkey and traveled to a lonely island, where a giant whale was chained and crying in pain. The man decided to save it. He rode the flying donkey straight into the whale's nostril, and the donkey began to tickle the whale gently. The next second, the whale let out a tremendous sneeze, breaking the chains instantly, and the whale regained its freedom. Later, the whale sent a crab, which gave the man a jeweled ring as a gift. Furious that the man had returned alive, the king gave him one final task. He must travel to the top of the snowy mountains, wake the sleeping ice princess, and persuade her to marry the king. The king was certain the man would die this time, but with the help of the magical flying donkey, they reached the snowy mountains quickly. A huge ice gate blocked their path, and the phoenix's flame reignited, shooting straight at the gate, melting the thick ice at once. The man entered the castle, where the princess lay fast asleep. The feather gently brushed her cheek, and she slowly opened her eyes. The man tried to persuade her to marry the king, but she refused. It was he who had woken her, and she would marry no one but him. When the two returned to the town, the princess was warmly welcomed, and the man was even more admired. He took out the ring from the whale, summoned his courage, and proposed to the princess. When the king found out, he flew into a rage and ordered the man to be imprisoned. The next day, 3 enormous cauldrons stood in the execution square, one filled with boiling water, another with icy water, and the last with poisonous milk. The man was pushed into the boiling water, but the princess immediately threw the ring, which formed a barrier, and ejected him from the cauldron. The man then fell into the icy water and was frozen solid like an ice statue in an instant. At that critical moment, the phoenix's feather fell from the sky, quickly melting the ice, but he then fell into the cauldron of poisonous milk. The people thought it was all over and began to leave, when suddenly a glowing dandelion floated slowly down from the sky. And the man stood up again as if reborn.